Welcome to this explainer on CPCC3012. Today we're tackling the most critical and honestly, often the most overlooked step of framing wet areas, which is planning and preparation. Because let's face it, a successful leak-proof build never actually starts with a hammer. It starts with a bulletproof plan.
All right, Genesis International College students. This explainer is your official guide, designed to put you directly in the boots of a framing carpenter, stepping onto a busy multi-unit or commercial site. We're going to look at exactly what it takes to set yourself up for a flawless execution way before you even think about cutting your first piece of timber.
So here is our game plan for today. We'll start off with a quick welcome to CPCCCA3012. Then we'll dive right into reading plans and compliance, selecting your essential framing tools, choosing the right PPE, and finally, preparing the work zone.
Okay, let's jump straight into our first section, reading plans and compliance. You know, your day really starts right in the site office, and there's a strict boundary you have to establish right away. You absolutely cannot improvise framing details in wet areas and never, ever accept a verbal shortcut. Why? Well, because a verbal shortcut today usually turns into a multi-thousand-dollar structural rot problem tomorrow. These boundaries are literally your shield. They protect the occupants, the builder, and for sure, your own professional reputation. Think of your document review as the very first domino in a chain reaction. By rigorously checking those plans, your setout gives you highly accurate marks on both the floor and ceiling. And those marks, they guarantee your frame is built perfectly square and plumb. A plumb frame then guarantees solid backing for the membrane, and ultimately you clear the way for the waterproofers to step in and do their job flawlessly. It's all connected. So, to guarantee you hit all those statutory and National Construction Code requirements, you're going to want to follow this exact sequence. First up, read the specific wet area details. Second, hunt down any site-specific requirements. We're talking things like hobs or tricky falls to waste. And third, build out your work order. Pro tip for you here, plan your sequence logically so you aren't fighting the plumbers or really any other trades for space on site.
Moving right along to Section 2, selecting essential framing tools.
Okay, so the plans are crystal clear, and you head out to the lockup. Choosing the right tools is kind of like assembling a specialized team. Temporary braces and clamps, those are basically your third and fourth hands out there. They keep the frames dead plumb and steady while you fix them in place. Pair that up with a high-torque cordless drill and driver, and you've pretty much got your foundation for the day.
Next up is your framing nailer, which is essential for pure speed and consistency. But here's a little trick. Save your actual hand hammer only for the final gentle taps. You really don't want to accidentally dent or compromise any moisture-resistant faces. Oh, and definitely don't forget to pack a hole saw and spade bit so you can smoothly drill out those necessary plumbing penetrations.
Now, the materials you're working with will actually dictate your specialized tools. Cutting identical notches in timber, grab a router for that high repeat accuracy. But if you happen to be dealing with light gauge steel studs and you need to, say, sneak a bath flange through without bowing the wall lining, well then you'll want to swap over to aviation snips, a nibbler or a multi-tool.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, choosing the right PPE.
Before you even think about stepping into the work zone, you've got to armor up, starting with the site baselines: a hard hat, high-vis clothing, and steel caps. But beyond that, your personal protective equipment needs to shift dynamically based on the task. Cutting fiber cement, a P2 respirator, and safety glasses are completely non-negotiable against that dust. Switching over to the nailer, you'll need to add hearing protection and some snug gloves. For simple lifting, just focus on standard gloves and making absolutely sure those boots are truly slip-resistant. And, you know, the environment itself dictates your armor, too. Working on slick, wet floors, slip-resistant boots and wet surface knee pads are literally going to save your joints from a world of hurt. Also, later on when you crack open those sealants or adhesives, always check the safety data sheet. Chances are you'll need to swap to specialized chemical-resistant gloves and a very specific respirator. Now, putting on this PPE is a strict ritual. Definitely not just an afterthought. First, confirm the task. Then inspect and fit the gear perfectly before you step foot into the danger zone. Once you are in there, keep it on until the hazard is completely gone. And finally, clean it up and store it safely so it's good to go for tomorrow. Bringing it all together in our final section, preparing the work zone. So you've digested the plans, loaded up the tools, and you're fully armored up. Now it's time to prep the physical zone itself. This right here is where you manufacture efficiency. Decide exactly how to bring materials in safely.
Always use team lifts or trolleys, save your back, and protect those sheet edges. Make sure you store your stock off the wet slab and entirely out of the flow of traffic. Pre-cut your studs, label them by room, and stage your flashings right where they're going to be installed. If you do this, you completely eliminate those annoying, wasted trips back and forth to the saw.
All right, your paperwork is cleared, your tools are packed, and your zone is perfectly optimized. The preparation phase is officially complete. But I want to leave you with a quick question to chew on. You've prepped perfectly for a flawless frame, right? But what happens when you strike your very first chalk line on site and you realize that the concrete slab itself is completely out of level? We're going to tackle exactly how to solve that reality in our next module. Thanks so much for joining me on this Explainer Genesis, students. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you next time.